Hey guys, and welcome to my office. It is a bit messier than normal today. All you can see is the shelves in the background, but I'm currently, like I always do, going through another stint where I decided to remove a few things over here and pile some stuff over here. So if you actually look around, especially on the floor, it's a mess. um, but that's not what today's video is about. I would like to tell you guys a little bit about myself, and in that is going to also come a testimonial. So, let's kind of start at the beginning. When I was little, I started off very poor. My parents own their own business, and yeah, I'm still getting used to that. Because when my parents got married, they literally spent all of their money on their land. And it was a nice plot along the highway, and they were all set up and ready to go. But the downside of that was, of course, my mom came from nothing. So when she married my dad, she had nothing. So it was really weird to go from literally having nothing to at least having a little bit that technically she couldn't even call it hers, because my dad made all of the money coming in. He was the business guy, the one that was always knowing on how to do all of those things, and she didn't know any of that. And so, of course, when I was coming up, we were still very poor. My dad was very business oriented, but in the same sense, he owned and worked a nursery. So we didn't have that much income coming in, and what little income we did have coming in went to all the basic necessities. So I remember when I was little, I worked on a carrot farm with my parents, and it wasn't because child labor, it was because we actually went down to the carrot farm, picked our food, came home, cooked it, and ate it. So it was definitely not a life of leisure. And I learned from a very young age that you work for what you get. And the more you work, the more time you put in, the more you're going to reap later. So the whole reap what you sow quote really stuck with me throughout life. And as I got older, I was very fortunate that my parents made me go out into the yard and not only help out because I lived with my parents, I should have helped out, but if I wanted to earn a little extra cash on the side, I could go out and I could work a little bit and be able to afford what I wanted to afford. So later on in life, I started to be able to get more things and not just have to focus on just the basics. And then my mom also adopted that mentality. So we came up from a very hardworking family. Now, I've done this all my life. When I was 16, I became a CNA, and I made more than most 16-year-olds ever did. Now, coming from no money and then automatically having money are like really weird, because once you have the money and you're never really taught how to budget it right, the budget thing goes out the window. I don't know whatever happened to half of that money. So I probably could have been a lot better off now than I would have ever thought had I learned how to budget it properly. But that's okay, because I needed to learn those tools. And so I grew and I grew, and I did not retain the CNA job. I had a very negative Nancy nurse that kind of destroyed it for me, so I left the nursing field and pursued other career options. I do regret not going to college. So for those of you who still have that option, go to college. Do not regret it, especially if it's currently paid for. I was so stupid when I was young, and I think that's my biggest regret in life, is not going to college. And so later on in life, I began to grow and flourish, of course. And then when I turned 21, I got a really good job, and the pay was substantially greater than I was used to. And I did not expect this. So yet again, here I was, all the money was coming in, but I had no idea where it was going. And, I remembered the concerts. I remembered a couple other things that I did with my family and things like that. But the bulk of the money was kind of disappearing. And so I started learning, or I really didn't learn. Actually, I should say I really didn't learn anything up until I lost that job. And I didn't lose it. I quit because the stress was too much, and to me, it wasn't worth that amount of money. So even though it was a good paycheck, I decided over my family and my health over keeping that big job, and I left. So when I left, I got a really nice retirement package that I don't regret cashing out, because without cashing it out, I wouldn't be where I am today. And I did not have, surprisingly, I did not have very much debt when I left that job. I did not have, I didn't have anything that would have kept me from leaving the job. So I took the retirement package and I paid off all of my debt. And along with paying off all of my debt, I also paid off my truck, and I bought a small car, which is the car I currently own today, a little Mazda Miata. And I paid it for it in full. So that car is paid for. And that's one of the reasons why I don't regret it. Now, in turn, paying off all of that debt set me up, because when I did that, I started kind of learning how to financially get stable. And after I paid off all that debt and I bought the car and I was ready to go, then I got this new job I have now. And I really, I enjoy this job. It's a lot less stressful than my previous job. And it opens up a lot more opportunities than I had at my previous job. So it was really an eye-opener. And my other half transitioned to the same field of work as I did from the last one. That's actually where I met him from, was my previous job. And it was really wonderful to be able to transition over with him, because we don't see each other every day. Not even at work, because technically we're in the same field, but we're in two different areas. So we never see each other at work. So it kind of works out. But in the same aspect, I took a massive pay cut. So not only did I go from making a lot of money to making zero money, I had to learn how to balance it and budget. And in the crazy of all that, I decided to buy a house. I know, crazy, right? So not only am I working my butt off and buying a house, I'm learning to manage a budget and somehow pay all of my bills. Oh, was that a journey? It was really fun. Not really. So the house, in turn, was also a short sale house. Took forever to get into. I almost pulled my hair out. It was over a year of fighting with the banks. I'm not very happy with a few of them, especially Chase. I will never bank with Chase again. And I banked with them when I was younger, and I'm glad I left, because fighting with them through this whole ordeal really set me off and gave me a bad taste. Now I mainly stick to credit unions and stay away from the bigger banks. I wish I could have my house under a credit union, but right now it's not. Eventually I will refinance and do that, but it's definitely not at the top of the pile right now. But anyway, moving on from that little sub story like I tend to do, I bought this house. And because it was weird, because when I left the other job, I didn't have anything lined up. And I know that's a scary thought, but I was so affected by this job, I had to leave. And don't get me wrong, I was looking for a job. I was working night and day. And so out of that retirement money, not only did I pay off all my debt and buy the car, I had reserves. So out of those reserves, I was able to pay what limited bills I had after leaving. Phone bill. And I think that was the primary one. But there was the phone bill and a couple other small bills that I had that I kept. And so that reserve really saved me. Of course, a month or two down the road, the reserves ran out. So I called up my mom and dad. Thankfully, I'm blessed enough to have this opportunity. They own their own business now. Not only did My dad have the nursery. But my mom grew and thrived and built her own business and makes way more than I ever did at my expensive job I had before my current job. And so I call her up and I go, "Hey mom, do you need work done?" And of course, I loathe those days now that I'm getting older, because I know when I go down there and work, I have to work. And it's not, get up, clean the yard, maybe trim a few things here and there, put up a gutter. It's hard manual labor. You gotta go out and dig trenches and plant pots and transplant things and cut the weeds on an acre square lot. And it's work. So, I go down and I help them out, and they pay my bills for me when I needed it the most. So that was a big blessing. But that also really kicked me into overdrive because, I love my mom, but we're both Scorpios. So after a certain amount of time, you put two Scorpios in the same room. Yes, I'm Christian, but I also do believe in the whole horoscope thing a little bit, because they got it square on with matching personalities with that stuff. When you put her and I in the same room for too long, it's like a cat fight that never ends over the simplest, stupidest thing. So I love her to death, but at one point I got to the end of my wits. I was like, you know what, I'm done. And thankfully, the man upstairs graciously blessed me. The other half was already working in that line of field, and he sent me an email. He said, here's this position. It's open. It fits your criteria. Apply. I applied. I walked in. So a gentleman that I had previously worked with in my other career, the expensive one, he recognized me, and it was all downhill from there. He told the boss man, he's like, "Yeah, no, I know her. I know where she's worked. She's a perfect fit. As a matter of fact, she'll be able to promote easy." And of course, I got the job. I mean, I walked in, I was professional, wore the whole button-up suit and everything. But I didn't even, at that point, because of my background and my history and how professional I was, that alone sold it and gave me the job. So I was very blessed and very fortunate to have some good contacts. And that was it. I was employed and very happy. So all of my debt paid, employed within the same career area, and all of a sudden, all of these doors started opening up for me. And I decided, hey, let's buy a house. Yes, we went over this. So I'm making less than I previously did. Somehow bought a house on minimum wage almost, and still managed to pay the electric bill. Don't ask me how I did it. I'm still questioning myself, but I did. So now this comes down to, I bought my own house, 1940s home, by the way. I still haven't done the video of starting a business and having a 1940s home with little to no space. So pretty much living in a minimalist style designed home, not even intentionally designed that way, and having no space for it when you by no means live minimalistically. I'm definitely learning to downsize, though. I've become a little bit more of a minimalist over the past 2 years, but I'm still working on it. Anyway, so I started the Lil Miss Dasie. I love it. I love making journals for people, selling them on my page. I have an Etsy shop. I'm about ready to open my own webpage. It's in transition. I hope to have it open before November. But all of a sudden, I was doing all this crazy stuff, and I was finding I had no time. Not only, did I have a hard time managing my budget, which, no joke, I didn't do that by myself. Dave Ramsey saved my life, and he is like my inspiration for trying to, I'm still working on it. It's a hard task, but deciding to want to start your own business on top of managing your budget and doing it Dave Ramsey style, it's a little hard. So, and that's kind of where I decided, my parents have their own business, And I've tried it before and I didn't really get it off the ground, but I figured it was finally time to try again. So with that, I still had the Little Daisy's Boutique on Etsy, and I stuck with that name. And because Little Miss Dasie was taken when I first started, even the annotation with the IE at the end and spelling Daisy all wrong, even that was taken. I was surprised, and this was like 5 to 7 years ago. And that's kind of what made me decide to spell it wrong was about 7 to 10 years ago. I decided to start an Etsy shop, and all I wanted to do Little Miss Dasie because my nickname was Daisy from my previous expensive job. Keep in mind, and I named my truck Daisy because apparently I have a really, I get into vehicles, and especially if they're Dodges or Chevys, the brakes tend to fail for some reason, and I hit fences. I've done it like almost 3 times already. And the first time, I didn't even have my learner's permit yet, and I was driving around the small backwoods of my hometown, and it was okay. I just got a text, so I had to start over. So I don't know where it cut out. Anyway, so I was telling a story. One of my cousins ended up at the hospital, so I had to go down to the hospital, pick up their vehicle, and then drive their vehicle home. I didn't even have a permit or anything, and my mom was supposed to follow behind me and make sure that I was safe. Maybe I did just barely get, yeah, no, that was it. I just barely got my permit. So I'd only driven like once or twice. So of course I'm like, oh yeah, I can do this. Cause I've only driven once or twice on the road, but I'd driven sandrails. I'd driven the fire trucks down at the fire department when I was a little kid, before like the fire department was even the fire department. So I knew how to drive. And so we get in the car and we take it to their house, and my cousin Susan is like, oh, sometimes you gotta pump the brakes extra hard because, they're starting to go out. She did not say this before we started driving the vehicle. And, well, she's like, pump the brakes, pump the brakes. And of course, I am like 15, just got my learner's permit. I am pumping the brakes. And I'm like pumping them as hard as I can, pushing with all of my weight. Keep in mind, 15, 16 was the strongest years of my life. I used to carry around at least 50 pounds of weight in each arm working for a living. I had strength to push down those brakes. They were not working. I realized that I only had 2 options: stay straight and let it run out and worry about whoever was down that road, or turn and put it in her yard. I have no idea why I didn't just stay straight and run it out and let it die. Of course, that road did eventually end and we were going 45, which was the speed limit. So I don't think it would have actually ran out in time, and I think that's why it just kicked into gear. I turned and went into their yard, and so there was like, I turned and went behind a little convenience store, and right here was their gate, and it was a pull-in, and here was the front of the yard, and I went in, and instead of going into the parking space, I ran off to the side and ran under the fence. And of course, I just had my permit. It was her vehicle, and we're all freaking out because we think that we're going to get arrested if a cop sees us. We all bail out of the vehicle and run in the house as fast as we can. Oh man, I was only 16 or 15, keep in mind, and this was like the not so good side of the family. So we had some questionable things when we were younger. But thankfully everyone was okay. There were no injuries. And the worst thing that happened was the tailpipe fell out from underneath the car, and the fence ended up on top of the car. And the house was owned by a member of the family, so we had to go back in, of course, and clear out the bricks and do the work. I didn't have to do anything because, it wasn't my fault the brakes went out. It was her fault for not even letting us know beforehand. So they had to fix the fence in the car, thankfully. But From there, it was all downhill, and I had a few other incidences where, sure enough, vehicle faulty failure. I've prayed about it multiple times, and thankfully, I've been blessed enough now to where I don't have any more beaters, and I've tried my best to buy good cars. That came into the budgeting. But now, after that, we went into the time management. So, after all was said and done, I decided to, of course, start Little Miss Dasie. That's where the name Little Miss Dasie came from, was all that craziness. And then, of course, it happened at my expensive job while I was on the clock because of faulty vehicles. And I earned the nickname at the expensive job, Daisy, or Daisy Duke. And I had named my truck Daisy because I love to go out off-roading. I'm an avid off-roader when I actually have the vehicles and stuff to do it. Now, not so much. I would like to get a quad and start doing that again. But, it's not at the top of the pile. It's not at the top of the pile. Budgets, time restraints. So, of course, after getting the name and everything, 7 years ago, I wanted to do like a little boutique, and then I wanted to do jewelry, and I wanted to do all that crazy stuff. So I really had no idea where I wanted my business to go. And that was okay because I was just starting out, and it didn't go anywhere. So I was kind of disappointed, and I let it sit there. I didn't even do anything with it. I just left it alone. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I didn't delete it or get frustrated. I just left it there. So, a few years later, I started talking to one of my girlfriends, and we were talking about doing a little clothes type deal to start making clothes and stuff, because I love playing with clothes. I create my own patterns in my head and draw out some things, and I have a lot of fun with that. And I did talk about going into that in the channel, but it obviously hasn't made it to the top of the pile yet. At some point it will. But so I came up with like Denim and Diamonds or something. And of course, a bar came into town called Denim and Diamonds, and that went out the window. So we were like, okay. And then it just kind of fell to the wayside, and we didn't talk about it anymore. So of course I bought the new house, and before I bought the house, when I was in transition between jobs, I was sitting on YouTube one day, and I think Amity Bloom was the first initial junk journal or person I seen. It just popped up out of nowhere, and I don't even know why or how, but it just did. And I started watching it, and it was like a deep, dark rabbit hole. I fell down, and I have not recovered since. As you can tell, journals, paper crafts, all that stuff. I've been sewing since I was like 6 years old, all that other stuff. I've been working with jewelry, painting, you name it. I've almost pretty much done it. The only thing I don't do is like the knitting or any of that. So it made sense. I mean, the journaling, it really made sense. I had all these other crafts in my pocket that I knew how to do, but I didn't know how to make the books. And I had been writing since I was so young that it just made sense. And I loved writing. I aced it in high school and in middle school. God forbid I couldn't spell to save my life. And that's the other reason behind the Lil Miss Dasie. I can't spell at all. And literally, like, some of you may notice on Instagram that the post will go up and you can't even tell what it says, or it's all foobar. You can thank my boo for going in and editing it, because he's like, oh, yep, you just posted something. I gotta go edit it. So I have to thank him every time, because he's such a blessing. He'll just go in real quick, edit it, make some tweaks, and then you guys can read it. So, you'll have to comment on Instagram every once in a while and tell him thank you for editing her crazy so we can understand it. But from there, it progressed, and I decided to open back up the shop, and I hadn't listed anything in there forever. I listed a couple pieces of jewelry, and I connected it to my bank account. Of course, I forgot what bank account I connected it to. So when I reopened it, I literally had to email Etsy. I tried calling them. By the way, it's hard to get a hold of someone at Etsy. You have to wait for them to call you. So it took like 2 weeks for me to finally get that settled and taken care of. And I hooked up a bank account, opened Etsy, and got going. And then I started with Anonymity Bloom at the other half's house where I was staying for a moment in time. And I literally had, I have always been one to have the highest or the newest phone. That's just been the way I am because I'm a photographer too. Oh yeah, many things I do. I also love photography. Did it in high school and just never got out of it. So that's why I've always had the newest and up-to-date phone, is because the video editing and all that other stuff. And I figure I already have it. Why am I not using it? So I took the phone and I rigged it up to this odd-looking contraption. And I made my first very craptastic video, which is probably still up on YouTube because I never took them down. So if you guys want to go back way, way far, this is before journals, and see all the wonderful stuff I did. I think one of them was candles. That was really fun because we set the kitchen sink on fire. And that made a really cool video. It was fun. And then I started making, before I even decided on journals, actually, I got into candles really heavy. I decided I wanted to sell candles. And one of my mom's customers really supported that. And she gave me like $100 to start making and selling candles. Well, I'm very sad because I thought, well, I love making candles and I had so much fun doing it. And they were really easy to do. I did them in the microwave. And the house always smelled so good when I got done. And then my first thought was, how am I going to ship these? Not only that, I live in Arizona, so I'm going to put them in the mail. And not only are they going to be fragile because they're glass and they're made from upcycled bottles, but when they get there, they're going to be melted all over the bottom of the box. And I didn't want that to happen. And I couldn't afford, obviously, to pay for the extra shipping to keep them frozen or whatever. So I gave up that dream. And I now had, no joke, like her customers started bringing me bottles. I had, I think, 10,000 plus bottles in my yard at the trailer. So I lived in a trailer next to my parents' house. They had rentals, and I stayed in one of them for a little bit. The whole front yard was, no joke, full of bottles. It took 3 truckloads to finally get rid of them all to the dump. We had to take them down and get them recycled, and that was a lot of glass. So that fell through. And then, of course, when I moved to Tucson, I still made a little bit of candles. And I decided to do a YouTube video, aka Fire in the Sink, boom. And we went on from that. So coming to today, and all the crazy that has led up from Lil Miss Dasie and starting it up at the 101's house, the other half's house, and having a contraption camera that just kind of swings in the air and smacks you in the face while you're filming. I'm sure some of you have been there, I'm sure. Then all of a sudden, not only am I making journals and you guys are loving the videos, and I appreciate that so much, but you're loving the journals too. And I would list a journal in the shop and it would be gone. Like literally, I couldn't keep them in there. So I kicked it into high gear and I started making more journals. And then more journals. And I was utterly surprised. I was just awestruck at not only how many I could make once I finally, got the hang of it, but I was awestruck at how fast I could produce them. And I started working and working and working. And then, of course, my time management went out the window because I've never been good at time management either. I just went out and did stuff and, spur of the moment, whatever. And I scheduled things, and my mom taught me how to schedule things because, she owns her own business and she has to. But that was on the clock. I never learned to, come home and schedule things. I've always learned, oh, God, doctor's appointment tomorrow. Let's all pack up. We got to run. None of that. So I was going crazy and working and working and working and tiring myself out. And I got to the point to where my time management was out the window, and I would get the stupidest distraction, so I would never get anything done. And then I got a message on Instagram from Megan at May Apple Be Health. And it was, I was a little worried at first. We started to talk, and, you know, she talked about the price points, and I was like, oh my God, I can't afford that. Not only am I budgeting and living on minimum wage, but, you know, I'm barely making ends meet, and that's why I had to start the Etsy, and that now pays for, literally, Etsy puts food on my table, and it has bought me new clothes because I literally had no clothes that would fit and almost no wardrobe. So I had to go buy a couple pairs of new clothes because I didn't have any. I was living by what means I had, so I just used what I had. Laundry detergent. Literally right now, that is what Etsy is for. You know, my career pays for all my primary bills, and Etsy brings home the bacon. Is what I can say. And I was so happy this last week. Like, I just got back from my first vacation, like my first real vacation ever. I mean, I've never really been on a vacation outside of the state. When we were kids, we would go to Washington to visit grandma, and I guess you could consider that as a vacation. But this was a legitimate vacation. I had never been on vacation before. And I can thank you guys at Etsy, or through Etsy, and all of my Lil Miss Dasie lovelies because of that. Because of my first vacation ever. You guys are amazing. Not only do you put food on my table, but you finally helped me get to go on my first vacation ever. Okay, so when I was a teenager in high school and going on my senior trip didn't really count because I didn't really have anyone fun to enjoy it with. So we'll just say that one didn't count. Because, you know, when I'm senile and 80, I'm not going to remember that I sat on the roller coaster alone and enjoyed the ride just because, you know, none of my friends made it through high school, and I was the only smart one that somehow managed to get straight A's, even though I hung out with all the outcasts that never did, you know, got good grades or any of that stuff. I don't know how I did it. Don't ask me. So you know, I finally, I answered the lady back, Megan, at May Apple Be Health. And I had been talking for a little bit about my lack of time management skills and how crazy everything was and, you know, starting a business. And so I messaged her back and I was like, you know, financially, I don't know. So we got to talking and we worked something out. And I was leery at first, but at the same time excited because, you know, if I actually work with her and I'm able, you know, and I'm able to work out all these issues, then it'd be worth it, right? I thought so. So I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's do this. Okay, let's do this. And so we got to talking and I told her, I'm like, well, so she just messaged me at the right time. And I told her, so, well, I go on vacation. Like, the last week she wanted to do the program, that would have ended the program for the last week. I told her, I said, I'm going to be on vacation that week. I can't, it's my birthday. I'm going to be on vacation. I also have a concert. Somehow I managed to schedule all that and we didn't even realize it. So, and, so she's like, okay, well, we'll start tomorrow. And I'll send you all the paperwork tonight. And you can look it over and read it. And we'll count this as week 1. We're going to fast track you for the first week. I'm like, okay, we can do that. So we got everything situated and got the program started. And I went through and I read everything and I procrastinated a little bit. I'm not going to lie. And so she sent me the stuff and I just got a printer. I was excited because I've been using a lot of my Etsy money, obviously, towards the business, and I got a printer for the business. So I was able to actually, you know, direct print from my phone, use the printer. I was so excited. And I printed it all out, and I started reading it. I'm like, okay, this is easy. I'm like, oh, why am I paying this much for this? Okay, this makes no sense. So I started going all over all the paperwork, and there were a few prompts and things like that to do. You know, not really physical ones, just I think mental ones. And I really started getting into it. I'm like, okay, this is cool. And then when the first meetup video was for us, we sat down and we talked over everything. And I didn't have any questions because it was very simple, straightforward. Of course I asked her, like, has anyone else mentioned anything that would be pertinent or, maybe just a really, really good question for as an overall basis that someone might be really interested in or, be good to know. And of course, she's like, everyone's different. And everyone is definitely different. So we made it to week 2. And I'm going through the program. I'm like, all right, this isn't bad. There's a lot of information here I'm going over. And I'm really sticking on track. And I'm doing everything she tells me to do. And I'm really excited because I'm starting to get so much stuff done. And sticking to the plan. And then week 3 came. And boom, I was back to square one. I was getting distracted, getting nothing done, and all of a sudden I learned about this little friend of mine named my ego. And I was learning that, I'm a little bit of a workaholic sometimes. And because in my last career, I made so much, I didn't have to really utilize the workaholic side of me. I got lazy. So during that time, I grew a really big ego. I mean, huge. It's like, we don't have to do this today because, we'll just worry about it tomorrow. We have the money. We'll worry about it tomorrow when we don't have the money. And now it's like, well, I can't worry about it tomorrow. I have to worry about it today. Financially, I have to worry about it today. And of course, now I'm starting to think about, where do I want to be 5 years from now? Where do I want to be 10 years from now? In my 20s, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about, all right, well, where's the next place that I'm going to go hang out for the evening? And who am I going to go, talk to today? What friend am I going to go shopping with? That's like pretty much what my 20s consisted of. At least my early 20s. The later 20s got a little bit more, what are my dreams? What I want to do with my life? And that's when I really started freaking out and going, oh my God, I'm 30. What do I want to do with my life? Oh my God. And so, I really got to talking to her, and I realized that all these distractions came from my ego, and it wasn't because, I was a workaholic. That had nothing to do with it. It had to do with not taking 5 minutes for myself and learning that. And it blew my mind that 5 minutes every day for myself, sitting down and drinking a glass of water in the morning, or, doing my hair in the afternoon before I go to work, or coming home and instead of, taking a 5-minute little whatever shower thing and just doing the basics, just taking a 30 to 40 minute shower and really enjoying it. And then getting out of the shower and putting on a face mask and really enjoying it. And then, getting a can of a Sprite drink with a little bit of alcohol, and then coming in here and enjoying it and relaxing while I sit down and write and work on my book. And the book isn't, I really enjoy writing and I love working on my novels that I still haven't gotten published to this day, and I'm really working on them now. So they'll get there. That's part of the whole pile. And there's a lot on this big pile. See this pile over here? You can't see it. It's huge. Very huge. So learning the time management skills and combating my ego. And I learned it's a daily fight. And I did not expect to learn that in this program. And learning how to manage my time better. And of course, just learning to take a second for myself. And then, of course, we got past the ego. And again, I had never been on vacation. So going somewhere and when I think of going to the zoo, my thought is, oh God, that's expensive. I would rather do this. But now my thinking is, maybe not the zoo, but zip lining. And I bought some zip lining tickets, I want to say last year. I bought them, and I heard them on the radio, and they were discounted 75%. So I bought them. I'm like, yeah, cool, this will be awesome. And we procrastinated and we procrastinated. And finally they came up. They were about ready to expire. And a lot of my followers will remember I did post pictures on my Instagram. We finally called them and I scheduled the day. I'm like, look, we're going on this day. And of course, Boo was like, well, crap, I scheduled this. And I'm like, well, we've been trying to do this for, he's like, all right, I'll cancel. Let's go. And of course, we were like 2 seconds late. We tried to plan it to the T, but it just didn't happen. And we got all the way there. And this was before May Appleby Health contacted me and Megan contacted me. And we went on the zip line. And it was just so much fun. Oh my God, just the reprieve we got. And, you know, it kind of like wiped away all of the worry and the stress of just the past couple of months. And then when we got down and we got home, we were rejuvenated and ready to get back to work. I'm like, okay, well, let's plan a vacation. Okay, well, let's plan a vacation. And he contacted me, the other half, he contacted me, he goes, hey, I got a surprise for you. And, you know, at that time, I wasn't saying, hey, let's plan a vacation. He's like, I'm going to do something, and I want it to be a surprise, but at the same time, I can't have it be a surprise because you have to save up half the money, too. I was like, oh, well, that's such a wonderful surprise. I got to pay for it. Okay, cool. But then he's like, well, let's go to Disneyland. I'm like, oh, yeah, let's do it. I'm like, well, on my birthday? He goes, yeah, we're on your birthday. I'm like, but that's in October. Won't it be so cold? Oh, we were so blessed. He's like, no, it's not going to be cold. And he's all, it should be okay. So we planned the trip. And this was like 6 months in advance, almost 7 months in advance. I put in for time off at work. And we bought the tickets, and we were doing this. The hotel was paid for and everything. So that kind of gave us the incentive to, hey, kick it in high gear. Now we have to save for the trip. Well, when the Appleby Health called me, I had no money for the trip because flat tire, you know, roof leaked, something else happened. Isn't that always the way it goes? So May Appleby Health called me, and in that second week when I got all that stuff done, I made the money to go on the trip, and I messaged the other half, and we were so ecstatic. Not only did I make enough money to go on the trip, the week prior to vacation, I made enough money so we could have extra for the trip. So that was a major blessing. Not only working through May Appleby Health did it help me with my time management skills, but it helped me get everything up and ready to go before my vacation. So I was able to take the vacation, afford the vacation, and have extra money for the vacation that we had planned 6 months in advance. Now, coming back to what I learned, give yourself rewards. Rewards. Wait. And she's like, well, when you're done with this program, you have to reward yourself. I'm like, well, the vacation is a reward. And she's like, well, that it is. I'm like, okay. Now, I can't lie, during the vacation, you know, I've learned a lot about budgeting. So when you're on limited funds and you don't want to get a new credit card and you don't want to rack up debt, you enjoy the vacation more. And I'm not kidding. The simple things we did. And I think I mentioned previously, before we started planning the vacation, I told him, you know, before we officially started planning, like, we need to plan one day just for the beach. And he goes, you really think we're going to spend a whole day at the beach and not get bored? I'm like, dude, it's the beach. I've never been there. He's like, okay, well, we'll talk about it later. Well, then all of a sudden we started doing Disneyland, and then we started doing Knott's Berry, and then we started doing Universal Studio, and we looked up all the tickets, and all of a sudden we couldn't afford the trip anymore. We had the hotel rooms, we just couldn't afford the trip. So we were like, all right, scratch everything. We decided Disneyland, so we'll keep Disneyland. Everything else gets off the board. What are we gonna do? So finally he's like, all right, well, we'll do a beach day. I'm like, yes. Okay, we're gonna do a full beach day. Well, we got the schedule organized, and the last tail end, like, we were going to do a full week, then it got dropped down to 3 days, and then, like, a week before, it got to, his dad gave him some extra cash, so that was a blessing, too. It really was, and I want to say thank you if you guys ever watch these things, because he was so ecstatic to be able to get another hotel room and stay in San Diego, because we stayed next to Disneyland for the first 3 days. So we decided that we were going to drive along the coast for the final day and then get a hotel room in San Diego, which was the best decision ever, because that was like one of the coolest parts of the trip, was driving down the coastline. And when we finally got everything said and done, and I came home, and I'm like, oh, that was wonderful. So not only did I learn to combat ego, it'll keep me on track. Scheduling. I learned, so much about, just being able to sit down and, figure out what I'm going to do with my, not only like 5 minutes from now, but 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And I'm not going to lie, when I got home and I'm back from vacation, this last week after vacation, I've been a little lazy. I haven't gotten anything done really. I've been tidbitting here and there. But, I got the journals ready. I got my scheduling stuff that I worked with May Appleby Health. And I got all the tools that she gave me to figure out what I'm going to do in the next 5 years. How I'm going to publish my book. How I'm going to keep Lil Miss Dasie going. Maybe pursue, furthering my career. Maybe even, I've even thought about furthering and going back to school. And I've talked about it before, but it's not in the budget. And, not only that, but I'm adding all these things to my plate. I have the business right now and learning time management skills. I can't add school to the plate right now because I need to learn to manage my time better, and May Appleby Health gave me those tools. And now I'm learning to refine those tools. And once I fully got them refined, I am going to go back to school. I'm hopefully going to be able to afford to pay for it in cash because of you guys and because everyone that helps me with Lil Miss Dasie and at May Appleby Health. But I'm also going to further my career, not only with Lil Miss Dasie, but with the career that I enjoy, that I have now, and not only get a better pay grade, but be able to go on vacations and take those rewards and really thoroughly enjoy them. And, not have to be freaking out over budget-wise while on vacation, because I can manage time and manage, just manage everything and hold myself accountable and hold and set real goals. I was setting goals, but I wasn't able to achieve them. And May Appleby Health really, really helped me get past all that. So is it worth it? In the long run, yes. I mean, it's going to cost a bit up front. Yeah, it is. And you're really going to have to sit down and spend your time with her, and don't be lazy. Don't be lazy. Take advantage of it, because these are some really good tools that you're going to need later on in life. And I'm really glad that I got the chance to work with her and learn some of these tools, because, my parents, they taught me how to work hard. They taught me how to make the money, keep it coming in, make sure that I'm really good at all that. I don't think they ever really taught me how to enjoy it. And that's crazy, isn't it? I mean, just because you have all this money coming in doesn't mean you know where it's going. That doesn't mean you understand what you're doing with it. And now I can see that. Not only through learning the budget, but learning my time management skills, where I want to put that money and where I want to see myself in 5 years. So how am I going to invest that money so I can actually see what I've done with it and not just have it disappear? Yeah, I went on vacation. I have the pictures. I have proof. Yeah, I got a brand new car, and it's, well, not brand new, it's used, but brand new to me, and it's paid for. And I ain't got to worry about it. All I got to do is change the oil. So is it worth it? Yeah, it really is. Because once you get all these tools in your toolbox, later on down the road, you're going to make double, triple, quadruple of what you invested in this just from learning to manage your time. Because if you can get paid more for that hour by learning to manage your time and hold yourself accountable, you're going to be able to invest that towards getting more later on down the road. And I'm not saying that as a greedy person. I'm saying that as in value your time. Because your time is who you are. You go to work, you get paid 8 hours a day. Or you get paid minimum wage. Say, we'll just use 10 as a base. You get paid 10 hours a day. Your life as a whole at work is only worth $10 an hour. That's what they pay you. That's what your life is worth for an hour of your life. That's the way I seen it. So if you can take that $10 and put it somewhere else where it's going to grow, now you've made that $10, that hour of your life, worth more. And to me, that's worth the world. Because not only did you make that $10, you put it somewhere else and was able to make it grow even more, even if it's just time-wise. So I hope that really explained everything really well and encourages you guys to go out and find the tools that you need to make your time more valuable to you, to be able to grow and to blossom, and to hopefully encourage you to be not only a better person, but invest your time to where it's going to be valuable for you. That is what I've learned. To invest your time where it's most wanted, and to invest time in yourself. And that is why, and before I even learned about May Appleby Health, I take weekends for myself. I don't work. Every once in a while I'll get on there and like a little bit on Instagram, or, you know, I'll message someone back for the business as long as it's a little quick little jot. Usually I'll tell them, hey, it's the weekend. I'll get back to you Monday. But sometimes, you know, I'll message them a little bit, especially if I'm by myself that weekend. But if I'm hanging out with my mom, or I'm hanging out with the other half, Saturdays and Sundays are mine. And that's just the way it is. And usually holidays too. Because I have to invest time in myself. And remember that I'm worth it. And you're worth it too. All right, thank you. Bye. So yeah, then all of a sudden I forgot my train of thought and everything, and I procrastinated. Saturdays and Sundays. Saturdays and Sundays.